Alright, ladies and gents, so a little bit about emptiness and Bumi analysis and learning Bumi analysis. Emptiness of all phenomena was the technical request, was it? I put my, what do you call this, like in fights, you have this, you know, piece of steel in the knuckles, so I'm prepared with my mala to tackle these difficult questions. Well, emptiness, selflessness. I remember many years ago when I would read books and texts about emptiness and selflessness, anatta or sunyata, and I didn't have a bloody idea, bloody clue what they were talking about. What was even worse, I started my career of practice with Zen Buddhism, which is a school of Mahayana Buddhism, but they just, all these patriarchs, in their grace and in their, how do you say, boundless compassion, they just make it worse. They don't explain stuff much. Well, they are I'm saying that with love and gratitude actually, but a Zen tradition is quite notorious in, when you go and ask for help, they won't give it to you. You just have to figure it out yourself. So that was my beginning, my introduction to Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism, to emptiness. And still, after many years, I didn't have a bloody clue what they were talking about, what these awakening experiences that are called Kensho or Satori in Zen Buddhism, what they are. I had no idea. So it was, enough time spent on they have these round meditation cushions called tsafu. Enough time spent on tsafu, and I just ran away. Not for me. This is not for me. Thank you very much. Well, I learned a bunch of really, really important, essential things from Zen Buddhism, like sitting, for example, sitting meditation. In Tibetan Buddhism, sitting meditation is considered a very high practice. Like meditation is very high practice. They just read prayers mostly. Receive empowerments and read prayers. And there's nothing wrong with that, but in Tibetan tradition, sitting is not emphasized like it is in Zen Buddhism. And for that, I am extremely grateful that, from the very first day when I was introduced to Zen practice, I literally started sitting 8 hours or more every day and kept doing that for 8 years and 10 months from the first day onwards. So, well, I changed traditions at some point, but it was very, very precious to learn to just sit. And I was also fortunate to study Zen calligraphy with Terayama Roshi, who is the other one of my heart teachers, and that involves energetical study, feeling different energies and tasting, smelling, how does different energies feel like. So I'm talking about, with Zen calligraphy, I'm talking about, Zen paintings or calligraphies made on white paper with black ink by different Buddhist masters, Zen masters, or masters from other Buddhist schools, or Shinto priests or Taoists. So Zen calligraphy, Zen art is about studying the mind state of the author, of the writer, of the calligrapher, of the painter, through the energy that sticks to the ink. And this is very relevant to what we now call Bhumi analysis in Amrita Mandala, because that's kind of my beginnings into studying energies and reading energies and making sense and being able to kind of see into the mind and heart and body of some famous Buddhist master who lived 500, 700 years ago. So it's like an opportunity, like being in the presence of calligraphies or artworks that have been written by some master 10 years ago or 1,000 years ago. It is a wonderful learning experience. And there you can, if you have any know-how, that's the thing. If you know to do that, if you know to tune in, you can be in the presence of the person in question, yogi in question, and then study it. So coming back to that question of emptiness and awakenings, and Wayne was asking about, he used the phrase emptiness of all phenomena. It's a scary ass phrase in Buddhism. It doesn't scare me anymore, but there was many years when I was bloody terrified about it. Oh, emptiness, wisdom, no clue. It's like it's like a steep wall, And well, there are authors, Buddhist masters, who have written about it in a very lucid and clear and down-to-earth, understandable manner. But unfortunately, I think most scriptures that I've ever seen don't accomplish that, so it remains like a steep wall. But I think it also kind of gives away the playing cards when something isn't simply and easily explained, isn't it? There's a saying that even in the case of very complex, perhaps for example scientific topic, somebody who's understood it can explain it in very simple terms, understandable terms. And it is definitely, at this point I can say that it is very true regarding emptiness. And emptiness, English word, is an awful translation for sunyata. Sunyata is based on, it's like nature of, it literally means like a nature of zero. A nature of zero-ness, maybe you could say. I'm a total, my English is very broken. I create these words as I go along, but I don't know if zero-ness is a word. But if I say that, it is a nature of zero-ness of mental and emotional and psychological phenomena. Zero-ness. Not charged with plus, not charged with minus, but resting in zero. Thoughts come and go, as we know. Emotions arise, stay, and go. Dreams come, stay, go. Fantasies, images, memories, all that stuff comes and goes, appears and disappears, and it keeps going on. Emptiness of all phenomena means that all of that stuff stays in zero, comes and goes, but stays in zero. So that's the basic view. That's the meaning of emptiness. That's the ground of zeroness, ground of wisdom that is often in Mahayana Dharma is called prajna paramita, perfection of wisdom, prajna paramita. There's also a deity, like a female deity, prajna paramita. So we were all drawn to Dharma practice and spiritual practice because we had a common problem, that of existential confusion. What is existential confusion? Where is it? Where does it exactly happen? It happens in thoughts, emotions, in our feelings, in our psyche. It happens not in physical body. Of course, we can have physical suffering, physical illness, something, but like physical suffering sometimes can put us to a spiritual path, dharmic path. But to be clear, the kind of suffering and confusion we are dealing with in Dharma is this existential confusion. Not knowing who I am, not knowing what the hell is going on, just the feeling of being lost, not knowing my position or place in the world, being lost existentially as a being, and in this case in the form in human form, as human being, in the midst of other humans and all these things we have in this world. So thoughts, emotions, fantasies, dreams, all that, functioning of mind, emotions, psyche, isn't it? Well, let's put it this way. The reason why we are lost, because there is that chargedness, I don't know if that's a word, chargedness of pluses and minuses. Things we perceive as positive that we want to have and get, and things we perceive as negative that we want to stay away from and avoid in whatever form, whether internally or externally, pluses and minuses, things we want to grasp, things we want to avoid. This is what I mean by pluses and minuses. And then it is very easy to understand what is pointed at with this view of zeroness of all phenomena. Isn't it? Okay? So it is possible. It is possible. This is, it's not, well, now we look at the world of Dharma through the lens like where we understand that there is Buddhist tradition and there is Buddhist Dharma, and then there is Hindu Dharma that Buddhism grew out of. But so, we associate this doctrine, this teaching and practices of zeroness or emptiness, wisdom, with Buddhist tradition, right? Buddhism made a thing out of it for a very good reason. Still today, like I've said so many times, I think that Buddha Dharma was an attempt to soberize, is that a word? To make sober Hindu Dharma. Because it's still not sober. So there are very good features and aspects of Hindu Dharma, but wisdom is not one of them. Except in small small islands here and there. But wisdom through zeroness, wisdom through emptiness is a universal principle that has and is known by, well, my experience of Hindu Dharma comes mainly from, Mahasiddhas like Agastya and Babaji and so on, tantrics, So yeah, wisdom, the clarity of mind is universal Dharma. But when we look at the, let's say, recent history of Dharma in the world of 2,000-3,000 years, now we associate, people of our time, we associate this emptiness wisdom with Buddhism, which is fine, but this is not the first time, and this is not the first time when emptiness and wisdom was discovered. Buddha didn't discover it. He was just a revitalizer, which is a very important thing to do because things get twisted and lost and fragmented. Is there something else I could say about? So that's the basic view about emptiness. Returning, releasing pluses, releasing zeros, releasing minuses, returning to zero. And it doesn't mean that everything becomes like, in the monastery in Japan, especially on retreats, there is this tasteless rice gruel you have for breakfast. It's like a rice soup that is really watery, and it doesn't taste. It has no taste. Emptiness doesn't mean that everything becomes just tasteless rice gruel. No. What happens is that because there is self, me, I, invested in both pluses and minuses, this is what self-delusion means. We are invested in anything. We are attached to anything we want to grasp or want to avoid. We are invested in them, everything. So it is because of this sense of self that comes into existence because of this attachment, because of this investment, why we are confused about who we are and where we are and what is our purpose, what is our identity and purpose. It's that simple. So it is very important, like I've always said, very important to understand the theory of emptiness meditation and emptiness principle. Emptiness meditation in Buddhism is called vipassana. But there are two types of applications to vipassana. There is sutra vipassana and there is tantra vipassana. There is sutric Buddhism, sutric Mahayana, and there is tantric Mahayana. So what does those mean? Sutra means that you don't work with mantras, you don't work with gurus, you simply meditate and watch your own mind. And as you see those attachments, pluses and minuses, you become interested in those functionings of the mind, and then you look. There is, let's say, for example, so you're sitting there and it's first day of the retreat and you're sitting there silently and suddenly you remember something that happened 2 years ago. Maybe something happened, something that still emotionally disturbs you. So then, in vipassana practice, in emptiness meditation, you look into that mind event, mind content, that memory, that thought, and you are interested in finding that sense of self, me-ness, I-ness from it. So, if you're looking at this memory, this core memory, and there might be, reactions, we react to it, and there's anger and frustration, and other memories might be associated with it. But what we are interested is the selfing that happens in that mental, emotional content. Where is the self in this? Two-part formula is excellent because from the very start it teaches you the two modes. That there is in simplistic terms, the relaxed or selfless mode, and then there is the self-based mode. And these two modes alternate in everybody's heads on daily basis. Maybe not that clear cut that it's clearly selfless, but like I said, in simplistic terms, at least relaxed, isn't it? This happens in most people's minds and hearts on daily basis. In and out, selfless, self-based, selfless, self-based. But what the two-part formula teaches very early on in terms of our method, at least, is that we bring the sense of self, I-ness, me-ness, back purposefully, so that it doesn't come and go out of whim, but we bring it back. And in that bringing back of it, with the help of I affirmation, there is something extremely precious, which is that you really get a taste of how this self, me, I feels like, how it makes you contracted, how it tightens your chest heart, how it grips your gut, how it feels like a band, tightened band around your head, how it can feel even nauseous, make you nauseous, makes you feel so off. And this experience is extremely precious because it clarifies the whole process of vipassana to the end of it, by giving you the experience how off it feels and how the self feels. Because it's the same taste from a zero bhumi to first bhumi to sixth bhumi to opening of 11th bhumi. It's the same taste, same feel, same sensation of feeling off through the whole string of perfections from 1st to 10th. Same taste. Not exactly the same, because you're not having, like I yesterday briefly said, you're not having the exactly same awakening again and again. You are, yes, awakening to the same basic state, but the flavor and feel of it keeps changing, because these are consecutive experiences. But this is very, very valuable to, from the start, from the get-go, to really get a good experience how the deluded self is like, how it feels like. Because then you can use it as a reference point. I'm talking about Sutra Vipassana now. Two-part formula is a Sutra Vipassana practice. It is not Tantric. But if we where to practice Sutra Vipassana, and even if we practice Tantra mostly in our Sangha, we do need to understand Vipassana, basic Vipassana meditation for our sitting periods at home and on retreat, because there are moments when stuff comes up. And when stuff comes up, you need to look at it and know what to do with it. Right? So when you have that very clear experience from the start, how the self, me, I feels like, the small self, the self that is off, then when you have that memory from 2 years ago, and there's anger and there's frustration, there are emotions related to it, there might be thought associations with it, but you look into it and you find that sense of self from it. You find that same feel from it. And when you find it, you look at it. What is this? I have often when I haven't given guidances to awakening in number of years anymore, but I did plenty of them, about 160 maybe, back in the day. And one thing that I gave in those guidances, maybe 90% of them, is to instruct people to adopt like a view of a scientist. So what I told people to do is that, think of yourself as a scientist who studies some microorganisms under a microscope. How does a scientist study stuff under her microscope? They need to look very carefully. Not in a tense way, but attentive. If you're not attentive, you can't make observations. Right? So this is I have no clue about science. I wanted to stay away from all scientific topics in elementary school and high school. I was more interested in other things. But the point is that in order to make observations and discoveries, we need to observe really closely. It is not sufficient to just sit there and, okay, there was a thought, it already went by. I'm just chilling and relaxing here. What's the time? Yeah, well, 7 more minutes. This is not sufficient. So, if we want to get the job done, the job that we have for today, if we want to get it done today, we need to, step up our game. It's same. Sometimes I remember when I used to go to the gym, I remember people coming to the gym and they were, how do you say that? Wanting to better their physical condition, stamina and muscle condition. And they were just picking their noses there and leaning to the machines and looking other people exercise. Oh, that guy's sweating. And then grabbing some weights like this. Working out. Okay? But there are so many meditators like that. And then they think that they are following the path of the Buddha. So, Sutra Vipassana, Tantric Vipassana. Tantric process is very different in nature than the Sutric process, Sutric methods, Sutric paths. So first of all, there is guru, a teacher, and there are empowerments, guru yoga empowerments, deity empowerments, empowerments and transmissions for all kinds of things, all kinds of practices. And so, sitting in place in meditation posture is similar in Sutra and Tantra, but what happens internally is completely different. The mind is the same. Thoughts, emotions, memories, fantasies, images, that is the same. But the application of the practice is completely different. And the experience is very different. Results theoretically are the same in Sutra Mahayana and Tantra Mahayana. Theoretically, well, maybe I'll just leave it at that so that the Sutra practitioners don't get upset. But, well, my experience is that Tantra is much, much easier. Much easier. When you have bodhicitta, when you have the need, and then when you have been fortunate to make contact with a teacher or a guru and receive teachings, practicing tantric practices is much easier. In sutra you generate everything yourself, and this takes a lot of time. So I could tell you examples of this, why I say that, but maybe I won't get into that now. But Tantra is so much easier because guru, empowerments, and mantras. Mantra is the main form of practice of Tantra. Then there are other forms of presentation of Shakti. Shakti means energetical aspect of our basic pure nature. So Shakti takes the form of sound, meaning mantra. Shakti takes the form of image, in the form of visualization. Shakti takes form of mudra, in the form of hand gestures. These are the three main tantric forms, techniques. Yeah, but it's Tantra, it's much easier to practice. But there is kind of tantric practice can make the process can be very fast. Whatever experiences one might have, I mean, we still have internal obstructions, internal difficulties. This is same in Sutra and Tantra. But because tantric practice works so fast, you need to have rock solid ethics and rock solid attitude. If you don't, the path will hit you in the face, and that will be the end of it with that try. So I've seen it so many times that people take up tantric practice, and then their attitudes are off, and then suddenly the path isn't there anymore, because the teacher, the guru, has to do something about that. You can't practice Tantra with a bad attitude. Bad attitude can mean arrogance, can mean laziness, can mean, what is that? Ignoring, picking and choosing. I've scolded my Sangha so many times about picking and choosing. But this is good attitude, means that you listen and you don't pick and choose. And as cultish as it may sound, you don't say no to your guru or your teacher. If you want to say no, then it might be that it is no longer, this teacher or this guru is no longer, it's not good to stay anymore. Yeah. And we are always free to leave. So that's like that will uncult it. That's very important, isn't it? We always are free to leave. But as long as we stay, it makes total sense. We have to listen and pay attention and respect what our teacher or guru advises or instructs us to do. If we ignore once, ignore twice, what's the point? What's the point of getting or giving instructions? Anyway, I got a little sidetracked about Tantra Vipassana, but these are very important points because to make the practice, the path work, right? These preconditions need to be there and need to be met on daily basis. Not only every couple of months when we come to a retreat. No, the practice is about us. The path is about us, isn't it? It's about our awakening and enlightenment, or the lack of it. And we all are on our path because of the lack of it. So, however dreadful, horrifying that sunyata, emptiness, wisdom of the Buddhas might sound from the pages of texts, it is not complex. It is not complex. But, well, we need to have practices and instructions that work. Then it will get very complex if we don't have a way to get a taste of it ourselves. Right? We can understand the theory, see a video, see 100 videos of somebody driving a bicycle or learning or teaching how to drive bicycle. But if we have never sat on a bicycle and tried to drive it, and were able to drive it for 5 meters, then all these videos and instructions are completely pointless. This is a huge problem in the world of Buddha Dharma today, that people eat menus when eating is about eating food. So theory and practice, and not only practice but experience. This is an important point too, that if we take any type of practice and you just drill it, you just do it, you keep doing it, but if you forget that, well, 3 aspects of practice: external, internal and secret. External is about doing some technique, repeating mantras, doing visualizations, doing stuff. External. Internal is about letting go of that doing, generating, and feeling the energy, the Shakti that was generated. That came through a bodhicitta prayer, that came through bodhisattva vows, that comes through chanting Namo Guru Rinpoche, Babaji's mantra, anybody's mantra, any deity mantras. We need to stop that doing at some point and just shift gears, maybe you could say, but just to receive. Instead of sending a signal, you start receiving a signal, receiving blessings, receiving charge. And here where we come to this, a few moments ago I spoke about Terayama Roshi and Zen calligraphy and feeling and sensing and analyzing energies. So we are getting to Bhumi analysis, analyzing stages of awakenings. What was I speaking about? So yeah, external and internal. So first doing, then switching to receiving and feeling. It is very, very unfortunate that there are millions of people in the world who chant mantras and chant prayers, but they don't know that they could feel and receive blessings. They don't know. Nobody has told them. Maybe some of them will intuitively pick it up. But in what I've seen over the years in all kinds of groups and sanghas is that they don't pick it up. Why? Because they are following exactly what the teacher told them to do, and they didn't tell them to feel energy. It is nuts. It is absolutely nuts. And a couple of times I've spoken with people like this, kindly suggesting that, did you feel the energy? Did you notice that there was this beautiful Shakti, beautiful pure energy there? And they get even frightened because their teacher didn't tell them. So if they start feeling it, it would be somehow turn into something scary or something that is wrong, something that is not Dharma practice. Oh my God. Anyway, so external, internal. Third one is secret. What is secret? Secret is our own pure nature. Through doing practices, we get in touch with Shakti, we get in touch with our true nature. The true nature, our own true nature, ourselves as Buddhas, is revealed. Revealed to us, ourselves. That's how it works. It's like a three-part methodology of practice. And in the beginning of practice, it might be very useful to just chant a lot, do prostrations a lot, just do stuff a lot. If sensing energies, blessings, not to even mention the secret aspect, is like a ancient language, then just do a lot. That's what I did back in the day. Just loads of chanting, silently and aloud, day and night, all the time. And this will gradually lead to you understanding, or the internal aspect becoming available to you. So then it might be that then you don't need to be doing so much. Like on these retreats, because there is the element of transmission, from myself, who is sitting here teaching, I say just a little prayer and boom, it will spread to the whole group. Yeah, that's how it should work. And just like the 3 parts suggest, that's the way to get to the third one. Our own basic nature becoming revealed. And then, in the process of internal sensation, we are now getting to Jussi's question about how to learn Bhumi analysis. I have felt that the path of Tantra is a very fruitful and exciting and inspiring journey, because you actually study things. There are things to study. Like I remember, I don't mean to criticize Zen, but when you just do stuff according to the instructions you're given, and you just do stuff not thousands of hours but tens of thousands of hours, and nothing much changes, then I think we can call that it's pretty pointless. It's pretty pointless to just keep doing things if the signs of growth, advancement, awakenings are not showing up, right? Basic logic. And part of this joy of studying Amrita Mandala is learning Bhumi analysis. How? Well, we have books, we have videos, we have recordings. There are so many things. Just to remind everybody that all tantric methods have a lot of practices and stuff. This is why it is not possible to go through everything all the time on all retreats. This is why we are blessed to have recordings. So that's that. So please use recordings. What we have in YouTube, on the web shop, there's lots available there. So about learning Bhumi analysis, you just have to sit down and look at the material that's available. There are some led sessions in YouTube, and just get on with it. It's not complex at all. But it's not complex. Well, it can be like that steep wall. Like I said, it can feel like that in the beginning, but as you keep practicing our practices, practicing together on retreats, it will you will start figuring it out. No doubt about it. But you have to show up. Might take a good couple of years when you get a hang of it. 2, 3 years, 4 years. But one thing that is also important when studying is to have the attitude of a good student. I've seen so many Sangha members who have so bad habits. I can't feel anything, I can't learn anything. Well, okay, if that's your attitude, you're definitely not gonna learn anything, right? So this is the last thing I say before we start practicing, but one really simple thing to help you, little pointer in the beginning, is that try to perceive something that you didn't perceive before. Try to notice something that you didn't notice before. Whatever you're practicing. Or if you are studying your Bhumi pillar, going through the Bhumi centers one by one, whether you are practicing Guru Yoga, Rainbow Body Yoga, Amrita Kriya Yoga, try to notice something that you didn't notice before. And then you will notice something. You will discover something new. And like I always say, it is in these experience and sensations where the path is. But perfectly
May I
do it. Please,
may,
Wayne.
may I comment there, Baba?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the emptiness phenomena that really cleared things up for me. It was last retreat or the previous retreat. I was it realized bird tracks in the sky. Nothing touches our basic state. The thoughts and the feelings, they just glance right over, glance right through, arise and dissolve simultaneously is what I hear. And I was probably overthinking the phenomena aspect, out there in here. I watch the Tigleys quite often in the blue sky gazing. Uh, so the whole concept of phenomena also, there is no outer inner. I'm still working on that, but nothing touches the basic state, thought, feeling, and also the phenomena. It arises and dissolves simultaneously as well. What you were speaking, I was just overthinking it too much, but it is just really simple and basic, and things really started to click in a little bit more there for me. So thank you for the explanation on that. And also, as far as practicing the Kriya Yoga or the Rainbow Body Yoga, I do both. So whatever you feel like teaching, I'd love to hear about it. And thank you.
My pleasure. But something about that, uh, you know, just to clarify something, there is no basic state separate from phenomena. Oh, from one perspective. From one very important perspective, there is no basic state separate from phenomena. So, one very common trap for lots of people, non-dualists, even some Buddhists, is to discover the space that is separate from mental and emotional phenomena. This is a trap. So there is space, and separate from it, there is the functioning of mind. But what emptiness does, it shatters that dichotomy, that dualism of space and phenomena. And that's really a liberating factor of Buddha Dharma. But something, maybe I spoke about Sutra Vipassana, Tantra Vipassana, maybe I'll say something kind of Vipassana from the perspective of great perfection. So, great perfection is called Chokchen in Tibetan, Mahasandhi in Sanskrit, great perfection. And that's where you will get, that's what you will keep glimpsing when you have those cessations. Yesterday I spoke about cessations. When selfing mechanism ceases momentarily, so you will have short cessations, the period of them will increase until it becomes sustained. Cessation becomes sustained. I don't know if that's good English. What should I say about this? Well, maybe it's actually sufficient or best to just say that cessations are essential, because this will give you an experience when all self-based phenomena returns to zero for a moment. And even if it is for 2 seconds, like putting the lights on for 2 seconds in a dark room, you have 2 seconds to look around, feel around. So 2 seconds is about the length of cessation in the beginning. That will increase in time. And when it increases to, let's say, half a day, 6, 7, 8 hours, 12 hours, and when it takes the leap from there that it lasts for a full 24 hours during sleep also, then your understanding will skyrocket. And doubts and all these scary stories read from classics and other sources, they will vaporize and disappear.
If I may.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Shakti, the cessations, they oftentimes come on me all by themselves, not me generating, not on the cushion. They last for a couple of few hours quite often. Um, having conversations with people. It's there driving down the road. But yeah, 2, 3 hours, and then quite frequently during the day, I get the cessations. So it's your teachings, of course, are very beneficial. Everything you say, the dynamic concentration at the beginning, really popping those boomies quite hard. That really worked, especially when I was starting. I still do them, of course, but that really showed the basic state, the cessations. So again, thank you.
Yeah. maybe something about great perfection from a bit different perspective, including the astral body. Not only great perfection from the point of view of so-called trekche, or cutting through, like it's called in Tibetan, trekche, but from the perspective of tegal, or leaping. I don't know how they picked up the term leaping, tegal, like leaping over. Trekche is called samapatti in Sanskrit, and tegal is, I don't remember the original Sanskrit term. But to be specific, so great perfection is attained by Mahasiddhas who perfect two subtle bodies. It's not technically technically correct to say that you are a Mahasiddha if you only perfect either one of the subtle bodies. You have to have both. Having said that, perfecting either one of the subtle bodies is extremely rare in the world. We have 7-8 billion people in the world, and if I made some rough estimate just out of my gut feel and what I know about folks out there, if I count combined individuals who might be practitioners or might be teachers, little known or well known, if I put all those people together who have perfected either one of the subtle bodies, there's probably less than 100 of such individuals. Less than 100, around 100. That's a rough estimate. If it's 200, the actual number, it's still 200 out of 7-8 billion, right? But I think it's roughly there. But if we discuss Mahasiddhahood, and if we discuss Dzogchen teachings, Mahasati teachings, it covers both subtle bodies. We discussed this yesterday a little bit, but now we have kind of the first generation in Amrita Mandala who have the opportunity to cultivate both subtle bodies at the same time. Because until just a couple of years ago, we only had the path of wisdom and clarity, which works on the wisdom 13 Bhumi model side of things. But there is something, so it is very, very important from the perspective of turning ignorance into wisdom, releasing self-delusion. It is very important to do emptiness practice, insight practice. It is very important to cover the causal body, right? You know, it's one of our bodies, the other one of our subtle bodies. But there's another one too. And something that I don't want to our Sangha members to misunderstand or get confused about. Everyone here and everybody listening has those two subtle bodies. I might be wrong, but I kind of have a little sense that for some members of our Sangha, it feels a little bit awkward perhaps that the astral body purification, the path of healing and light, mainly practices with Hindu masters. I kind of have a little sense that yes, people understand the importance of it, but might feel a bit awkward that they are suddenly Hindu masters. The reason for this is practical, which is that, well, we could actually try to squeeze this session into this retreat, but Buddhist practice design in both Sutra and Tantra, the feel, the tone of it is very causal body dominant. While the Hindu side is, you could say, astral body dominant. And this is the reason why we work with Guru Rinpoche and Yeshe Tsogyal mainly on the path of wisdom and clarity, and with Hindu gurus, Agastya, Babaji, and so on the path of healing and light. But this is only because it's more effective that way. We could perfect the astral body just by practicing with Guru Padmasambhava here, for example, but it would again become like, how do you say that? Around the corner effect, like hearing music from around the corner instead of hearing it directly. Okay? And this is one of the reasons because there are Buddhist Vajrayana practitioners, couple in every generation. We hear about these reports and have heard them the last 10 years in few cases. There are individuals who attain rainbow body, small rainbow body mostly. But these are usually people, practitioners at very high age, 70, 80, 90. So they have practiced many decades. The reason why it takes many decades is because of that around the corner effect instead of directly addressing. To avoid that kind of time commitment, who has 40 years to finish practice, or 50 years? We necessarily don't have. This is the reason why we work with different gurus of different traditions with each path. There was something else Wayne said that I was meaning to address. Yes, the aliveness of great perfection, because that's very important. You might have heard me, well, you probably have if you have done retreats with me the past year and a half or so. You have heard me discuss about trauma and how I think that trauma of modern, laitako kulta ikkuna auki jostain, how trauma of us modern people is probably much more severe than with ancient people, to whom, practices, ancient traditions have been designed for. But the real foundation of the aliveness of great perfection is in the astral body and its purity. That's where the immense beauty, light, radiance of pure energy. The astral body is kind of the engine of it. And cessations of the astral body, karmas and records are another topic. Cessations can happen in both, but it also can happen in either. It's not necessarily both. But I just wanted to say this to clarify that yes, you may choose either of the path to finish first, because to practice first and finish first, if you have to do that in terms of what is time available and rest available, time available for practice. But to be clear, for Mahasiddhahood, we need both subtle bodies returned to their original pristine condition. All right, I've talked about astral body purification and trauma, healing of trauma, and all this quite a bit on many retreats recently, so there are lots of talks available about this. But one thing I want to add. I have a list of 12 things on paper that are all one more thing that I want to add. But one thing that I want to add is, I haven't given deity empowerments in a while, long while, for a good reason that I'm not going to go into here. But I wish I had the opportunity to give them more. But my present policy is that I only give deity empowerments in person and to people who have shown that they're worth it. I'm not gonna give. Probably I might change my mind later, but I don't feel it is exactly right to give deity empowerments that also commit me to the student without necessary devotion and commitment and involvement of the student. So I found myself thinking about this. Like I said, I might change my mind when I finish my astral body practice. Maybe I will start giving all kinds of empowerments completely openly again. Maybe. But for the time being, I don't. I only give Guru Yoga empowerments. But those students who have been around for a few years and who are being good students, who are supporting the Sangha, creating opportunities for the Sangha to practice and new students to learn and teachers to teach, and are devoted practitioners, for such students I'm happy to give empowerments. All right, Baba's sermon for the Saturday. Thank you for listening. Let's take 15 minutes, 15-minute break. Okay.